but then I will share my thoughts, though I'll try to be brief. I think when I looked at the theme looks like everything you want to know about business is there. And we talk about entrepreneurship, we talk about startups, and we talk about innovation, and they're adding a term called regional innovation. I think it's very appropriately talked about it. And then, of course, the COVID, which struck every one of us. I think it's not untrue to say that not an individual across the globe who is not impacted by COVID in one form or the other. So the theme is to look into all these aspects of it. Normally you do business and you learn how to administrate or grow it. That's what all the management students will do. And the entrepreneurship bug will come and somebody gets an idea that I can do these things differently or in a more efficient way. That's where the entrepreneurship comes into the pictures. Then suddenly the startups have come. Though I started asking question about how is the startup different from starting a business? I think this is something which I'm sure as a management student you would have put this question to yourself or to the faculty who come to the class. The startup is something which is new idea, which is not going into the regular way of growing the businesses, and that's where the startup bug or startup thing is coming, and everybody gets into the bandwagon of startups, and maybe you can do the same thing and say this is the startup. I think Dr. Rishikesh was mentioning how his father missed the startup band at that time because that coin was not used. I think it's very important when you do all these things, you need to keep the local flavor, local requirement into consideration. That's where I liked when they added the regional aspect of it to be there. The business is not the same across the globe. Even if you want to make steel making, and I think Dr. Rishikesh mentioned about if you import a technology to make it successful, it's not easy because you have to naturalize this to the environment in which you grow this. I think it's a big challenge. And those industries who ignore this get into failure mode, and that's where I think it's very important that we need to bring the regional aspect. But I look at the regional aspect a little differently in terms of the requirements. In fact, before coming here, we were discussing about the traffic woes of Bangalore. I think this is something which we have to worry about. I think what is the innovation we are talking about when we can't solve the problems of the roads. I think so there are a lot of issues which are specific to the region in which you live, both in terms of resources, both in terms of the requirements, and both in terms of the capability to find solutions be there. And hence, it is very important to understand how you can adopt to the requirements of the where you are there. And that is the way. Then the question is that how did we manage the COVID impact? And that's why I'm sure the last 2 days, a lot of discussion must have been happened there. But then I just have to tell some words about who have come together. One is the Institute of Science, one of the best in this country, maybe the best in the world, and Professor Valedictory's guidance, and a very young university, Ramaiah University, which is fastly galloping towards excellence, taking advantage of last 60 years of experience of running the academic institutes, and the Asian conference, Asian agencies are coming. And you all agree with me that this century is going to be that of the Asian century. 60% of the population of the globe come from this Asian region. So, and hence all the development has to be, leadership has to come from Asia. The requirements are at this growing population. And then today, I think when we just last week or 10 days back, 15th November, we celebrated the day of 8 billion. Today we are 8 billion strong. 60% of them are in this country, and then 1/3 maybe in India. I think this is something which is a challenge which will be there. And hence the coming together of all these things, maybe giving an Asian flavor by bringing the countries from Asia, because even though there's a lot of diversity is there, but there are a lot of commonalities also there in terms of Asian culture, which I can say. I think that culture of commonality in the Asian culture probably would also help us to find solutions. So a good team, a good organizations coming together to organize this. And I was just thinking about the COVID impact. I'm sure that the COVID has opened up because it came all of a sudden to all of us. Even though we knew that Spanish flu happened 100 years back and how it is impacted, maybe it was not documented as much as we have documenting today about the COVID. But one thing is clear from the impact of COVID is that how fast it traveled across the globe. That shows how well connected we are in this world. I think that you'll be surprised that the next day you will find in the next country. That means the connectivity is so large there. But then what happened to the COVID? Suddenly things have changed. You are supposed to be at home, not come to office. That will be joyful for a while. I think few days you will be joyful. Then you realize that you always have a problem of being with your spouse for a long time. I think this is a challenge which you would realize. I think so. You realize that this is not going to be a holiday. You have to work, and then the technology availability became a challenge. When people go to their hometowns, how do I get connected? These are issues have come, newer challenges have come. But what is the resilience of these communities are that we managed to go through this crisis. And there are a lot of lessons for management. I'm sure that the service sector got impacted like anything, because you don't go to hotel because you're afraid. The service sector impacted, the travel sector is impacted, but suddenly you realize that everybody talks about Zoom calls. I don't know, we never heard about this Zoom. At least I have not heard about Zoom before all these things. Where from it has come? Newer opportunities have come to excel. And starting from simple dispensing of the sanitizers, a lot of innovations you would have seen that what happened across the society. And the industries have adopted themselves. To the credit of the countries, there was not impacted lack of supply of material. Supply chain was maintained. And you can see that's a very great efforts by the industry to keep it going. The medicines were available, the hospitals were there, the food supplies were there. All these are the challenges which COVID has posed, and we learn from it. Today, if you ask somebody for an international conference, it is going in person, is de facto way of it. Today it is not. Today you accept that I use technology and get connected. And it starts opening up newer avenues for collaboration. In fact, it has forced us. Since I am coming from an academic institute, I said learning has become a challenge. We said in the classroom training, and suddenly we said online training. We are not ready for it. Showing the same slide on a small screen is not going to make a learning impactful. So we are learning how to improvise. And hence, I think all these COVID impact, I am sure that all these things in some form or other have been discussed in the last 2 days. And that is where, when an opportunity comes or when a necessity comes, how people who are ready, who are capable, or who will be responding to it. And we talk about innovation. And innovation means you have to innovate. In order to innovate, you should be ready to be innovate, and you should be ready to foresee the possibilities. COVID did not give us this opportunity. But new technologies are giving us that opportunity, be it artificial intelligence, machine learning, whatever it is, they are already telling you that we are coming. And hence the business houses, the entrepreneurs, innovators have to take this into cognition and get ready for making a success of this opportunity. I'm sure that all these things will be dealt. I'm happy to see that policy is also one of the important components of this management. You can deliberate a lot of things, but if it doesn't get transformed into policy making, it's of no consequence to the people. So, and hence linking to policy is very important. I'm happy that society has an important component of policy making, which every meeting should have a recommendation which goes into policy making, at least to knock the door of the policy maker and say, this is something which you have to do. So I'm sure that some of those things have already also been discussed about. And I just like to quote maybe Emerson and probably stop. He said, that which we persist in doing becomes easier, not that the nature of the task has changed, but our ability to do has increased. And that's what the COVID has taught us, that when you come out of the COVID restrictions and go back, you will never go back to the old normal. It is going to be a different platform where online learning, online interaction, technology utilization, all these things are going to remain with us. And we'll continue to do our job, maybe more efficiently and more easily. And I'm sure that I think Dr. Ganesh Raman has told the importance of how people can come together and organize. And I see that very well organized meeting. So appreciation to all those who got involved in this part of it, both the leaders and also the volunteers and the students. I'm sure that you've done a wonderful job. But then what next? I think probably, I also thought, what is the next then? We have come to a good conference. We heard, I'm very happy to see somebody getting prizes, getting recognized. I'm sure that all of others also done good presentations. But then when you go out from here, it's a platform where you got connected to government agencies, industries, innovators, startup ecosystem people. Then go back and don't forget it. Don't remember that only for this conference or these awards. I think we need to continue this connectivity among the participants. I'm sure you'd benefit out of it by interacting and continuously do it and find some solutions to the problems you may face or your industry faces or your organization faces. So continue to interact with these people. I'm sure these conferences are platforms to set people to continue to interact and learn and benefit from each other. Again, thank the organizers for having me here. And I will ask Ganesh Raman afterwards whether I did justice to his expectation or not. And thank you very much. Best wishes to all of you.
Thank you very much for that very insightful presidential address, sir. Growth is